Get $50 instantly when you play $5 and use the promo code. Presented by Prizepicks. Welcome to Light Years. Tommy, the Warriors win big in the NBA Cup. Do you have that NBA Cup fever? Do you have the NBA Cup fever?
Roddy's NBA Cup, baby. Oh, I got the fever. Apparently Memphis does too, because they were very concerned about that point differential right at the end there. Goodness gracious. People in the chat are saying that last 5 minutes felt like a colonoscopy. I mean, I think that's accurate. But what I will say is, you know what I really missed? Stress-free wins. God damn, how few stress-free wins did we have the last couple seasons? That was just like Memphis, no jaw. You come out, you take care of business. Really not that stressful from maybe the middle of the second quarter, early third quarter on. And that's, it's a solid Memphis team even without jaw. But, Dubs came out tonight and they just really took care of business. Pretty easy win.
Yeah, I mean, my take, I was a little skeptical the first few games. I didn't know how sustainable the offense was going to be, and watching them, they look like a machine. They're going to have bad shooting nights, and honestly, tonight was kind of a bad shooting night for a lot of the main guys. But just, we're going to talk about this a little later, but the 2022 vibes of this team where everyone's on the same page, everyone's executing the game plan. You're going to have nights where you don't hit shots. You're going to have game nights where you turn over more than you want, but everyone's on the same page to the point where they're just always going to look good. And if this is how it's going to be, like 10-2, very wildly impressive road trip, first home game back in the NBA Cup. But I don't really see a reason why this isn't sustainable. Maybe not like 65 win pace sustainable, but like consistently winning games and being a home round, first round at home in the playoffs team consistent.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they look like a machine. Even, I think, the last couple years, if they weren't making threes, it could get really ugly really quickly. But even on nights where they're not shooting well, they're still manufacturing good shots and good offense. They're getting so many layups, so many layups and dunks, just because they're constantly moving, they're constantly cutting, and everybody's constantly sharing the ball. And they just all seem kind of bought into what they're trying to do. Nobody, like, even the guys that you would worry about playing a little bit selfish, like a Kuminga, who I thought was, despite the, I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit, despite kind of the off night from the field, I thought he was very good, especially in the first half. But yeah, they're just doing such a good job at sharing the ball and constantly moving and using the, they want to play fast, but at the same time, if they can't find a good shot early, they continue to use the ball movement and player movement to find a good shot even late into clocks. But no, it's just, everything has been so encouraging early on in this season, where it's really hard to poke holes in what they currently have. Like, they are getting everything they possibly can out of this current group.
No, I mean, tonight's the textbook night in which you would expect a letdown. Steph didn't even shoot the ball, to be honest with you. A total of 9 shots, 13 points. Wiggins 5 for 15 from the field. Draymond, ironically, is shooting the ball well, but 13 total points. If you're going down the line, if I told you Steph and Wiggins would combine for 26 points and 24 total shots, you'd be like, they're going to lose. But no, it's waves, it's strength in numbers. It's just playing consistently smart basketball and playing together and putting themselves in good position. Yeah, tonight was a night they needed Buddy. Buddy had been a little subdued the last couple games, but came in and provided the offense they needed. They defend as a unit. I think that's really the biggest thing with this team. They defend. Draymond is the best defensive player in the NBA. He still is. As long as he doesn't miss 25 games or 40 games or whatever, he should be the runaway favorite for defensive player of the year. And as long as they defend as a unit and play smart, they just rack up wins. I don't know how else to put it.
I mean, look at that box score. That box score is Steve Kerr's wet dream. But we got six guys in double figures, and then Kuminga with 8.
Nobody over 20.
Just pure communist basketball. Just perfect commie ball. But no, I mean, like you said, Buddy was really good tonight, and I continue. I know we've seen it for the preseason plus 12 games now, but I just continue to be surprised by how much off the bounce verve he has. He just he's not just a standstill or like movement shooter. If you close out too hard on him, he can get in the paint and finish, but he's also like been pretty good making decisions when teams like double him off a screen, and now he's dumping it off to Looney or I think he had a nice one to maybe Kyle Anderson in the first half that got a layup. I can't remember exactly who it was, but he's been a revelation. We talked about it on the last show too. I thought maybe 15 to 20 minutes game, but you know, he played 30 tonight, and like I'm never mad when he's on the floor because he's doing so many positive he's doing so many positive things, and he's defending well. That's the thing. Like, he's not a perfect defender, but he's giving consistent and great effort on that end and constantly making rotations and trying to get deflections and get his hand on the ball. And he's just been, I mean, he's been fantastic so far.
He has. I mean, there's so many players I want to talk about who've been fantastic tonight in general. You're mentioning Buddy, and that's like the standout one. Lindy Waters, hopefully the injuries, it was a hyperextension on the knee right there.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not too serious. Looked scary at the time. But he walked off, so maybe it's not as bad as it looked. Gets put in the starting lineup with no DeAnthony Melton. Kind of a funny choice, but also the most logical choice if you think about the way Steve Kerr is going to play it. I don't want to break up my bench units. I don't want to mess up my rotation. Lindy was playing a hell of a game prior to that too, even though he hadn't played well prior to this, which kind of speaks to this team, right? Mm-hmm. It does not matter. Everyone's kind of bought in. Everyone has their night, you know. That's it. It is a true team, which is really fun to watch. Looney,
I mean, the thing about Lindy, just real quick, you know, he's kind of like Damian Lee vibes in a way. Not the same exact player in terms of what he's trying to do, but just you can put him in a starting lineup on a night like tonight, and you're not worried that he's consistently going to do the right things. Like even the play that he got injured on, he's making a hustle play and making a block. You know, like he gives constant effort, he moves the ball, and obviously he can knock down shots.
Yeah, and let's talk about Podz real quick. I want to talk deeper on Kuminga, but let's do Podz real quick. Pre-game, Steve Kerr says he was pressing. Yes, he was. I too had eyes in how he was playing. Maybe it was Melton being out, or maybe it's just the reality of it's a deep team and he's a young player and he had a couple of bad games. I thought he played much better tonight. Even if he wasn't hitting the three, played much more decisive, understood when to take shots, just more aggressive in general, especially when it got into the lane. And I mean, it looked a lot better.
Yeah, you know, he's just kind of in a weird spot. I think both you and I had higher expectations for him coming into this season. Sure. But, you know, I mean, the fact is when Melton's healthy, he's just a better player at this point, which is to be expected in a way. Melton's been a very good NBA player for a while. He's 26, 27 years old. Podz is what, 21? You know, so like he's in year two. And guys, when they're young, they're going to go through some ups and downs. And his fit just gets a little bit weird when you have both Steph and Melton healthy, because those guys are obviously just better basketball players than him. But tonight, I thought he was just really solid tonight. He didn't do anything that jumped off. I mean, the behind the back pass in the first half was crazy.
Yes.
The save and then the pass. And I think he was doing that on purpose. I don't think that was a mistake. But yeah, I mean, he was just really solid tonight. Like you said, way more decisive and just played a really solid basketball game. And the thing is, you know, if Podz is your 8th or 9th best player, you're in a very good spot. You know, and he's such a great guy to have to where on, you know, if Melton is out for a couple weeks, if Steph happens to go down later in the season, you don't really have to worry about ball handling that much. Now, is he super elite? No, he isn't. But, you know, he's basically going to run the team pretty well. For the most part, not make mistakes. You know, 5 assists, 0 turnovers tonight. And he's going to be in the right spot on both offense and defense. Like, it's just such a nice luxury to have a guy like that to bring in deep off your bench.
And I think this is what the coaching staff wants from him. His swing skill is going to be his shooting. If he ever turns into a guy who can shoot confidently if someone doesn't come up on a screen, then look out. He can be a real weapon that could really change the trajectory of his career. And I'm still bullish on his shooting ability long term. I think I got a little too excited about what was possible between year 1 and year 2 on that front. But putting that aside, you know, what you want from him right now is assert himself into the game. Don't turn the ball over. Be aggressive. Make plays for other people. Rebound the ball. Get the team out in transition. That's something he did exceptionally well early in the season. Didn't do the last couple games and is finally doing again. As long as he's doing that stuff, he's a net positive, and he's, you know, it's hard to keep a guy like that off the floor in general. Even if he is your 8th man, he's going to find 20 to 25 minutes a game playing that way.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of mentioned like him overthinking stuff a little bit, and Steve did too. I was watching a clip from Moody's appearance on Draymond's podcast, and they were just telling a funny little story about, Steph came back to practice a couple weeks ago after being injured. He made a shot, and Steph Podz high-fived him and said, like, let me get some of that touch. And then Steph tapped his head and he's like, get out of your own head. He's just kind of telling him like, hey man, stop thinking so much. Like just play some basketball, and that can happen to young guys. That's pretty common for young guys, especially I think Podz probably had higher expectations of himself coming into this season. So it's not going how he wants. He starts overthinking, but he was great tonight. I don't have really anything bad to say about the way he played. And if he can just continue to be that guy where, when we're fully healthy, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, but if somebody else is out, all right, now you're going to play 20 to 25 to 30 minutes and you're going to run the team for most of the night.
We're going to talk Kuminga in a minute. And there's more interesting stuff to say there. But for those asking in the chat, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Congratulations, Andy and Risa. They had their first child. So that's why Andy is not on the show and will not be on the show for, a little bit here. He'll be back. Don't worry, guys.
Andy will be back.
So,
just
congrats,
pinch him
Andy.
for the time being. Yeah, congrats, Andy.
Before we get to that, though, I think we need to point out that your Prizepicks parlay did not hit, you dumb motherfucker.
I know. Well, fucking Steph letting me down. I expected him to at least get.
It's different for him, right?
Yeah, it is different for him. Like I said, I thought Edie was just gonna be able to dominate on us on the boards, and I think he might have. How many boards did he end up with?
Edie ended up with 10 boards, so you hit on Edie.
Did I hit on Draymond? Did I hit on Draymond? Then I'm good. Because I flex played it, so I'm good to go. See,
you did get the Draymond. Draymond gave you the all around line you were looking for. I understand the logic. He's gonna, he's always got a little extra juice versus Memphis.
Oh, we went more. Dang it. I went less on that. See, that's my fault. But I know what was.
Oh, you screwed this whole thing up.
I know. I really did. I was not on my game tonight. Clearly. But no, Jaren usually gives him some issues, at least on the offensive end. But the thing is, Draymond's shooting the ball this year. So that's like, it's changing the whole game. He had 3 threes tonight. But no, the biggest thing that I love about the Prizepicks app is you can use the flex play. So even if you're only confident in like 2 out of 3 things hitting or 3 out of the 4, it gives you some outs. Now, if Draymond would have not made those threes, I think I would have been looking good. But I mean, Draymond's apparently he's just a stretch 5 now. It's ridiculous. Like the guys, he was what, 3 of 6 again tonight from 3?
I know, man. I'm thinking about this because I'm going to make a play on Monday night's game against the Clippers. I'm going to the Intuit Dome. I'm going to inspect Ballmer's House of Toilets, see if it really does have the most toilets per capita of any arena ever assembled. I've heard good things. I'm trying to figure out what to play. It feels like a big Steph Curry night. He always goes off against the Clippers, but this is probably the best defensive team the Clippers have assembled in quite some time. Yeah. Like they are kind of a team built to slow down Steph. Just it's a bunch of guys who can guard on ball in general.
And Ty Lue will go terrorist ball. He'll trap Steph to half court. We know that. We know he loves doing that. Ty Lue loves taking the ball out of Steph's hands. But for whatever reason, Steph does seem to get fired up down there. So, I feel like just in principle, I can never go less on a Steph Curry play. Like it screwed me over tonight on my pick. I went more than 27 points.
No, I can't play. I'm like you. I can't. I just won't play him. If I think he's going to have a bad night, I'll just be like, I'm going to find another line. I can't do it. But that's kind of the fun of Prizepicks. So no draw tonight. Kind of took a little juice out of the game. It was still a fun game, and when the Warriors win, it's always fun. But it's fun to play Prizepicks. Have a little, like just something else to make it a little more exciting. It's a long season. What else are you going to do, guys? Prizepicks is the best place to get on the real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars on the line. Pretty simple, guys. Download the app today, use the code LIGHTYEARS, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 with the promo code. So use the promo code LIGHTYEARS, deposit $5, they send you $50. Who's going to say no to that?
No brainer. It's an absolute no brainer.
Let's talk Kuminga real quick. And actually, I want to talk Kuminga in the context of 2022. So Steve Kerr had this quote between the last game and before today. So Our guy, Tim Kawakami, put it in his article here.
TK.
He's talking about kind of the recipe for this Warriors team. He's going, I don't think we have the depth and versatility last year that we do have right now. So to me, the model is 2022. We want a championship in 2022 with similar mix to what we have now. Good on both sides of the ball, establish the defense. I think we finished second in efficiency that year, if I'm not mistaken. We've established it this year with good defensively. We still have things to work on, but we won a title 2 years ago with a group built around Steph and defense. And that's our formula this year.
Hasn't that always been the formula?
It has, but I feel like well, technically it'd be three seasons ago, but two plus years ago, 2021, 22, they didn't really have an obvious second option. It was very much we have a deep team and Steph is a god, and Jordan Poole kind of had his breakout season. He kind of broke out a little bit earlier at the end of last year, but like nationally, people are like, oh, Jordan Poole, this guy's good. That was his year. He was the second option. They get Clay back. He was obviously incredibly important as well. But to me, it was Jordan was kind of the X factor, got that team going offensively. And obviously Andrew Wiggins' ascension as a two-way player, but specifically defensively was huge for that team. Otto Porter was huge for that team. We can keep going down the list. Yes, they had depth and versatility. My question for you is, for the 2022 formula, I see it on defense. I see it right now. Melton he's injured and hopefully gets better soon. He's a 16-game player. He's a finishing games player. Wiggins looks exactly like he looked in 2022 defensively. Draymond's an all-timer. We can go down the list. Kyle Anderson was meant to be a Warrior for a decade. That sort of thing. Good. But my question is always where are they getting more offense from? And for me, it might be Kuminga. It might be Kuminga.
I think it has to be, right?
Is Kuminga ready to be 2022 Jordan Poole? They don't play the same style of basketball. Let me put it out there. But that wild card player, that guy who could get 30 against Memphis in game one out of nowhere, flip a game. You don't need him to be 25 every night. You need two big scoring nights a series out of him type of guy.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about Poole. He was obviously spectacular that playoff run, but he averaged 18 a game, but he could go off for 30, 32 like he did in game one against Memphis. I think the biggest thing with Kuminga is the offense will be there for the most part. He didn't make his threes tonight. He didn't finish that well, which is, obviously kind of the outlier for him when he's not finishing around the rim. He just seemed like a little bit rushed sometimes, and maybe some of that is Memphis's length. But the biggest thing that I've seen with him over the past couple of weeks is he's taking steps defensively, which is almost more important than a way, because I do believe in the offense for the most part. He's making more consistent rotations. He's having less mental lapses. He's more active. I don't know if he had any blocks or steals tonight, but it felt like he did. So they didn't credit him with any blocks or steals tonight. But I know a play in the first half, or the one where he ends up getting the dunk, when Podz had the behind the back pass from out of bounds. That was Kuminga rotating over from the weak side, covering the middle cutter, tipping the ball out, and then Podz sprints out of bounds, gets the steal, flips it up to Kuminga for the dunk. Right? He's doing stuff like that more and more consistently. And that's the key to him getting more minutes. I know it is for Steve Kerr, because we know how Steve thinks. And he basically just said it. Their identity is going to be built on defense. So if he can continue to defend at a high level, then he's going to get minutes. And if he gets minutes, I'm pretty confident that the offense will be there, because he is willing to take and make tough shots. Like I said, tonight was more of the outlier, but we saw him do it against Houston earlier this year. And we've seen him do it over the last couple of years.
And he's the only guy who can get downhill and finish with consistency other than Steph. And Steph's older and he's smaller. I don't need Steph throwing his body around at the rim all the time. Important elimination games, sure, do whatever you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. But February against the Spurs, I don't need Steph going hero ball to the rim.
Totally.
It's a bad sign for the team to do that, quite frankly. Yeah. And just to be honest with it, okay, Melton's out for a period of time, but let's say he's back and everything's healthy. He's not that guy. If Podz is next to him, he's not that guy. Buddy Hield's not a downhill player. Wiggins, better shooter than he gets credit for, but a worse finisher than people really acknowledge given his athleticism. He's not that guy. Draymond's obviously not that guy. Kuminga is that guy who gets to the rim, and more nights often than not, he's either putting it in the rim or he's getting to the free throw line, and it just adds a different dimension to this team. So
yeah, I mean, he's leading them in free throw attempts this year. Now it'd be nice if he could make a couple more, but
Sure.
you know, he is their leading. I mean, I think he's going to stay that way. I don't really see that changing because, like you said, nobody else puts as much downhill pressure on the rim as he does. So like my biggest thing is keep defending like you're defending, like Jonathan. That's what I would say to him. Hey, you're doing fantastic things on the defensive end. If you continue to bring that energy and bring that level of focus and attention, you will continue to get minutes. And then we know the offense is going to come. We saw it last year. You know, he had some really, really nice stretches last year, and the jump shot comes and goes because he's young and the jumper's still inconsistent. He doesn't have great touch. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So the jump shot's going to come and go, but he will always be able to get downhill. And if he just continues to have the same mentality on defense, Steve will continue to play him. That I know for sure. So it's always a mentality thing with young guys, but especially a guy like him whose effort and focus can really wax and wane depending on the night. But I've been really, since he went to the bench almost, I've been pretty encouraged about what he's trying to do defensively.
Since he's gone to the bench, it's made rotations cleaner. He gets to play kind of the 4 position, which is by far his best position right now. And then they can go to that small ball lineup, which I think at the end of the day is what Steve wants to close with when he has to.
Yep.
The Draymond, Kuminga, Wiggins, Melton, Steph lineup.
Yeah.
Obviously Melton's injured right now, so we'll see. But like that construct, it does make a lot of sense if he stays consistent on defense because he has the highest defensive upside of a lot of their guys. So I get what they're trying to build towards. And I guess one of the more encouraging things with Kuminga has been like, yeah, they started the season with this lineup that we knew didn't make sense on paper. And it didn't work. And then they sent him to the bench. He didn't really pout about it. He's been going about it like I know he wants to start. Everyone knows he wants to start. And he should want to start. He's good enough to be a starter. But in this team, given the players they have and like just the way the rotation set up, he makes way more sense coming off the bench.
Yep.
Just
when everybody else has a positive attitude and you don't have a malcontent in your locker room, and you're winning games, there's nothing you can really say, right? You know, it's a lot easier for everybody else. And I mean this, like I'm joking, but at the same time, I do mean this. It's a lot easier for a young guy to start, bitching and moaning when one of your veteran leaders is doing the same thing. It makes him think it's okay. That's just team sports, and it's team sports in general, but you can tell by the way this team's bought in. Nobody's doing that. Everybody's so bought in. So now he'd stick out like a sore thumb if he's going to start complaining about stuff. They're winning games and everybody's bought in. So you're going to look like an idiot if you complain.
I'll also say, and that's all true, but winning's the biggest one.
Oh yeah.
Andre Iguodala never wanted to come off the bench. He did it because he was asked to. And then they never lost in 2014-15. And he's not an asshole. He's not an idiot. You're not going to be the one to be like, Steve, I know we're 16-2, but I think it's my time to cook.
I mean, Andre, hold on. Andre is an asshole, but
not like that. But not like that. Yeah.
yeah, totally.
And then like even like David Lee, Lee thought he was the starter. He was the starter. He gets injured. He comes back. They're in first place 20 games in this season. So a lot of it just comes down to if the things you're doing are working, if you have any shred of self-awareness, you can't say anything, It's really simple. Like you just look at it, you're like, I really want to start, but we're in first place. Like I don't have whereas like last year or every year, the last couple of years, they're like, they're 4-5. They're,
3-7,
12-14. And it's just kind of like, well, this isn't working, so why the fuck do I have to sacrifice? Give me the ball. Let me get a chance. So, I think we talked about it all off season, but like them not making a big move made it imperative for them to get off to a hot start just to manage the fact that they have 14 guys who should be playing every night.
Yeah.
And it's worked out perfectly. And I can't complain. It's awesome. Everyone's bought into their role. Right? Like I guarantee you, every one of these guys, Moses Moody wants to play more. Brandon Pajemski wants to play more. Like every one of these guys wants to play more, but no one's saying a word about it if you walk away with a W every night.
Yeah, they're 10-2, man. Like I think this is about as good as we could have hoped for. Especially considering what the schedule was. The first 5 games were pretty easy, but that road trip was a really tough road trip. If we looked at the season, or if we looked at the schedule coming into the season, and we say, hey, we're 12 games in, you're going to be 10-2. You take that every single time. I don't care who you are. If you're
Yeah.
the Boston Celtics, you take that, you know? So yeah, it's just been such an encouraging start to the season, and it makes it so much easier for Steve and the rest of the staff to coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about Via, huh? As I've said, this is a new product for you.
About to have this after the pod.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. I'm about to do it and pass out. Yeah, exactly. All right. Need a break from the crowded holiday stores and endless gift lists? Restore your zen and embrace the natural power of hemp this holiday season with Via. Whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or embracing the festive cheer, Via's premium THC and THC-free gummies and vapes will help you find the perfect holiday balance. Via's products are crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part, Via legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging, delivered directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. So Via has a bunch of different products with multiple effects. You can go for something that's more like relief focused, focused, to help you concentrate at work, sleep focused, or even love focused. Apparently, I haven't tried those yet. My favorite has been the sleep focused CBD gummies. I keep talking about these guys. They have 130 milligrams of CBD in them. They have passion flower, which helps you sleep. And then I believe they also have L-theanine, which is like kind of helps calm your mind down. And these have become part of my nightly routine. Like they're awesome. They knock me out within 20 to 30 minutes. And if you're not somebody that like wants to do THC, like I said, these are just CBD. So you can just go the CBD route, which is awesome. So their products range from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC. So these guys have you covered whether you're looking to microdose or enjoy more potent effects. So if you're 21 plus, check out our link to Via's website in the description of the podcast and use code LIGHTYEARS for 15% off. Once again, the description is in the link to Via's website, and then use code LIGHTYEARS for 15% off.
Big fan of their products.
Huge fan. They're awesome. And like I said, that comes in like a really cool discreet box, so nobody even knows what it is.
Their packaging's A1.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Not that that's a reason to buy a product, but it does make you feel a little better.
Absolutely. And they write your name on it.
They did. So are you guys ready to kickstart your fitness journey? Whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just trying to get back into shape like Tommy and me, Bodyspec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, you can get a DEXA scan, the world's most accurate body composition scan. So what's a DEXA scan? It's a great question. It's a highly accurate method of measuring various aspects of your body's composition. So the most common one that everyone knows is your body fat composition. So you always want to know your body fat percentage. DEXA scan will tell you. You can also get your bone density, lean muscle mass, and honestly, most important, the visceral fat, which is like the fat around your organs and the stuff that's more telling of if you're going to have health conditions as you age. So DEXA scan, traditionally $200, $300. But with the promo code LIGHTYEARS45, you can get a DEXA scan for only $45. So that's right. $45, you can get a DEXA scan. You can figure out your body fat. You can figure out the visceral fat around your organs. You can start your fitness journey. So go to bodyspec.com, use the promo code LIGHTYEARS45, and get a DEXA scan for only $45.
Look, I mean, if you're not going to do this winter, what are you doing? Like, it's time for New Year's resolutions, right? Like, we got to start getting our bodies ready for the new year. So, like, it's time to go. It's time to do it.
I wish D'Anthony Melton only needed a DEXA scan, but
man,
where are you with him? So just for those listening, I think everyone knows sprained ACL. They have not put out any notes anymore on that. I have no reason to believe it's worse than a sprain, but given his injury history and given the fact that they haven't really given a diagnosis beyond that 3 days later, my gut feeling is we won't see him before Christmas at this stage.
Yeah.
And given compounding that with kind of like the reason the Warriors got him for cheap was because of his injuries.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. That's part of the reason he's not a $20 million player, because on the floor, he is that type of guy. Like with the way new contracts are, he's a $20 million a year guy, at least in that range, right?
He's like Josh Hart got 480. He's better than Josh Hart.
I think so. I mean, I'd
and that's at least like that's like an obvious comp of like, okay, they're not star players, but they're such winning glue guy. Like that guy gets 20+ million on the open market if he's healthy.
Oh,
but he's
yeah.
not healthy. So
Now, does the fact that they're kind of playing coy about it concern you, or is this just the Warriors being the Warriors, and they kind of always do this with injuries anyway?
that's the way I'm reading it. I'm
Yeah.
more concerned about the fact that he has multiple years of injury. Like he's just, for better or worse, he has that reputation now as being an injury prone guy. So I don't
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
because like he's better. He's, as much as they have all these options, he's better than GP2. He's better than Podz. He's better than Moody. He's a true 16 game player. Like he's somewhere between. Actually, I want to ask you this: who's better, Melton or KCP?
ooh, I did not see that question coming. I think I'm a little bit biased. I've always loved Melton. Like back
Okay.
when I mean, for my real friends here who were like in the gutter with us during the COVID year, 2020, 2021, during the locker room days, all that stuff. When we had the traded player exception, right? I think Melton was making 8 million with Memphis. And that was like
Yeah.
the guy that I wanted, because the traded player exception was 9.3 million and the Warriors just ended up letting it expire. I wanted Melton back in 2020, 2021. So I'm biased. Like I've always wanted him to be a Warrior. His specific skill set, I just thought fits this Warrior so well. It's just the way he plays defense, the way he shares and moves the ball, how smart of a cutter he is, even though he's not the best finisher. So I would personally take Melton.
And he can hit a shot.
Yeah, and he can hit a shot. I think KCP is probably a tiny bit more dynamic as a scorer. Just like, KCP is a real movement shooter, can like he has like a little bit of a pull-up game. At least we're talking about the guy who won the championship with Denver.
Sure.
But
I'm assuming the guy we saw the first 10 games who looked kind of rusty is not who he is going forward, but
maybe it is. I mean, I think he is on the wrong side of 30, so you never know with guys like that. They can fall off a cliff.
Sure.
But personally, I'm a Melton guy. But I mean, if you're going to tell me, you get 2020, KCP has been a championship player in multiple places. So like, I would get it if you take KCP. Like he's outstanding too, but I just love Melton. And the thing that I love Melton specifically for this Warriors team is his ball handling. Like he really helps in that facet, and he's a great passer. For a guy who's not like a true downhill threat, he makes the right pass almost every single time. So I've just been a huge fan of his game for a long, long time.
So I have a feeling, or I have a take that these guys are still wildly underrated. Like Drew Holiday is the gold standard of the point of attack defender / connector type. Like, and he is. He's honestly, like, if a guard was going to win Defensive Player of the Year, Drew should have won it at some point.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. No one can convince me him going to Boston didn't swing the title more than anything. It basically tanked Milwaukee, and it took Boston from a really good team to a machine in many ways. On putting him aside, I would say Melton, KCP, those type of guys are like the next best thing. You can get to that. And
Derek White, Boston has two of those guys. That's what makes him so good. Part of it.
Just such. I think they're underrated in the general scheme of the NBA is kind of the point I'm trying to get at right now. I saw this come out today, the efficiency landscape, what teams are doing well. And, OKC in first place, Boston, the Warriors, all these teams. And what stands out to me is they all have guys who can guard point of attack, not necessarily great rim protectors, which I think is kind of a trend in the NBA right now, particularly with the way everyone can shoot the ball. And we've talked about it. It's just the importance of being able to guard the ball. The marginal difference between a good versus an average point of attack defender is wider than the difference between a good versus an average rim protector in the modern NBA.
Yeah, and I mean, the theory is obviously if you can keep the ball away from the rim protection matters less.
Sure.
I mean, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. Like as I think I talked about it recently. You and I have definitely argued about this over the past year or so. I do think, I would still love for the Warriors to get another rim protector. Like, I'm not saying it has to be this guy, but like Robert Williams would be awesome on this team. Just like, because if you have both, then you're super, super dynamic defensively. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is, and we saw it against Dallas to finish that game the other night, the fact that with Wiggins and Melton, and then a GP, if you have to throw them in there, they have guys who can keep the ball away from the rim and at least make it tough. You know, the ball handler has to make 3 or 4 moves, and now your defense isn't so scrambled, even if they do get there. So yeah, they're doing such a good job of making things tough on ball handlers early in the season, and it's causing their defense to be in rotation so much less, which doesn't expose their lack of rim protection, even though it is better this year. Trace has been solid. Looney's obviously, I mean, Looney's playing fantastic again. You know, he looks like his old self. Draymond's been phenomenal. But yeah, and I think honestly, in a weird way, the biggest way that you see the fact that they have better perimeter defense is Steph is just like an off-ball menace again. You know, Steph had 4 steals tonight, and he's been doing that all season. And part of the reason why is they're scrambling less defensively. So now Steph can cheat those passing lanes. He can dig down and get a swipe down steal. And that's honestly, I think, one of the biggest symptoms of them having better on-ball defense is number one, Steph's playing on ball less, and number 2, he's getting a lot of steals again. It's weird on defense. He almost looks like it's 2016 again. It's very, very bizarre.
Well, it's because they can guard the point of attack, one, and also guarding the point of attack is not just guarding shooters. It's like if they're just getting into the lane at will, it forces everyone out of rotation. What's the Warriors' number one issue been the last few years? I feel like they've always been overhelping because they don't trust. And next thing you know, you got like Podz. It doesn't really matter who it is, but someone just swinging out late to a shooter, and you're just like, great.
You don't miss CP3 closing out on Michael Porter Jr. with 2 seconds left on a shot clock.
I do miss my guy Tony Lamb, but yeah, it's like the same thing. Slow, small, just late everywhere you're going. But it does really start at the point of attack.
Absolutely.
And obviously the rim protection matters too. They can get away with missing someone as dynamic as Melton, not just because they have GP2, but also just because their backline's a little better this year. Like you don't need it as much. So like this isn't to say rim protection doesn't matter at all. I'm just noticing a trend around the league. Like if I was going to spend my money, I would spend my money more so on getting guys like Melton and Drew Holiday, Caruso, than overpaying for a rim protector, because I feel like you can find good enough big man play relatively cheap. Whereas the guys who can do the things Melton can do are really hard to come by. Absolutely.
And, you know, I think another guy, if we're just going to talk defense here, that we got to shout out is Slow-Mo. I mean, that dude he's a game wrecker in like the funniest sense ever. He's just always in the right spot. He barely even has to jump, and he'll block a shot. And his arms,
him and Looney, UCLA.
It is the funniest thing watching those two defend the paint, because they're moving at a half mile an hour, but the ball handler never has an angle to get to the rim. You know, this team is just, number one, they're so smart and they're so connected. There isn't a time where I look out there where I'm like, you got to get this guy off the floor. I'm comfortable with everybody that's out there on basically both ends of the ball. And then I think we got to talk about it in, you know, maybe just surface level, but Stack has obviously done a great job with these guys, and Draymond's talked about it ad nauseum. It seems like he has them really accountable, and he even has a guy like Buddy Hield playing hard. You know, Buddy is like a notorious guy for bad effort defensively, inconsistent, not locked in, and that dude is like diving on the ground for loose balls. He's getting deflections. He's almost always in the right spot. So I think we'd be dumb not to mention Jerry Stackhouse's place in all of this, but the personnel doesn't hurt either. Like it's never one or the other. You got to have both to have a great defense, and they really do right now.
No, they look awesome, and like what they're really making me rethink is a conversation for another day. But like, can they get away with not having a second option, or like a true like? Have we over-indexed the need for a second star the entire way? To a degree, the answer is yes. To a degree, we've probably, like, obviously it's better to have great players than not have great players. But to a degree, I wonder if just the cumulative of having guys who are exceptional at their role around Steph and Draymond is better than like Zach LaVine is just so much better offensively than anyone not named Steph Curry on this roster. But does he force a bunch of, roster decisions where they can't guard the point of attack and that sort of stuff? And I wasn't ready to say that in preseason, and now I'm like, you know what? It's working. Maybe they were right not to trade for a star who isn't the perfect fit.
Yeah. And the biggest thing with these Warriors teams has always been if they get stops, they can get out into transition, and that helps their offense go. Because they're still like
Mhm.
this group is so good in transition. I touched on it a little bit the other night. They are all so comfortable playing in chaos. You know, they know where to cut, they know where to move the ball, they know where like which shot's going to be open when. And maybe you don't need a number, even though the game will slow down in the playoffs. We all know that, but maybe you don't need that high level number 2 offense if your defense can consistently generate offense because you're always causing missed shots and you're creating enough turnovers to get into transition consistently. So yeah, I mean, I was here probably about a week and a half ago where I was like, you know what? Maybe they don't need a second guy. And it's probably wrong to think that way. But if they keep running off wins like this and the schedule does get easier over the next week and a half, we
Mhm.
could be talking 2 weeks from now and this team could be 14-3. They could be 15-2, knock on wood. But the schedule sets up very nicely before December gets very tough. So this team could, really vault to kind of a stratosphere in the top of the West here where, they're going to be in a top 3 seed for the rest of the season. And the last thing I'll say on this is, OKC, after they lost Chet, it's like, oh, the Warriors dropped 130 or whatever it was on them, but they didn't have Chet. The next 2 nights they come out and they hold the Pelicans to 80 something, and they held, I can't remember who they played tonight, but they held them to 83 points. So like even without a center, they are locking teams up, and the Warriors absolutely sliced and diced them up offensively. So
The
maybe the number
Suns,
2 yeah,
the
Suns,
non KD Suns,
non-KD
but
Suns,
it's
but
still impressive.
you
Yes.
still got D-Book and you still got Beal. So like,
No Beal tonight, but just
no Beal tonight. All right, well that changes things obviously, but the Thunder are still locking teams up, and the Warriors dropped 130 points on them.
Guess Booker's stat line tonight. So
I know.
book and role players.
I was scrolling Twitter and I saw some tweets flying around about him. So I don't know, 14 points, 6 of 18, a lot of turnovers. What was it?
You are not far off. 2 for 10, 12
Ugh.
points.
Only 10
So,
shots.
Yeah, 8 free throws, 10 shots, generally not going at all. So, yeah, I don't know what to make. Like it's, I'm a small ball guy. Like I truly believe in the concepts of small ball, but Lou Dort and Alex Caruso at center for 48 minutes, like it's even too much for me.
Yeah.
It's like it's a lot. But then again, you watch them play this type of game, and you're like, fuck, man.
What? Dude, Jalen Williams against the Pelicans.
Jalen Williams might be their set. Who is the center in this lineup? Shea, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, and Kassan Wallace with Caruso coming off the bench. Like,
I guess you say nominally Lou Dort because he's like the biggest and the broadest, but
he's probably the one who's boxing out the other team. Yeah,
Jalen was playing rim protector for them the other night against the Pelicans. Like I think he had like 4 or 5 blocks. They're really good. They're really, really good. They would be the one team that would give me like a little bit of pause in the West, even with the current Warriors roster. If we saw them, I'd be like, that's going to be a really tough series. Really, really tough series.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate everyone. We're going to be back.
Thanks, everybody.